Hello, everybody. How are we today? Oh, how are we today? Come on. There we go. Perfect. Thank you all so much for coming out today. My name is Sarah Colley. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator here at the Great Falls Public Library. And we are so thrilled to be able to do some cross-partner programming this year with the Sun River Watershed Group. So I'm going to allow Tracy to introduce herself. Sure.
I am Tracy Wendt. I'm with the Sun River Watershed Group. We're a nonprofit. Our office is in Great Falls, right downtown, across the street from the Mighty Mo Brewery. And we work from Gibson Dam all the way down to Great Falls, where the Sun River meets the Missouri at Oddfellows Park there. So we work to restore and protect the resources of the Sun River watershed and its communities. So we do things like water quality monitoring, stream restoration projects, trash pickups, grizzly bear awareness. I mean, our rain barrel workshop is our most popular event. There's a whole list of stuff on the back counter. You can get one of our events flyers that has a list of everything going on. One of our big efforts the past couple of years has been to make improvements out at Wadsworth Pond. So we're working with Parks and Rec. We even got Walleyes Unlimited and Trout Unlimited to be friends and work together. And several other groups. So we've got new picnic pavilions installed. We've added a second fishing pier. We've got picnic tables. We've got toilets that are permanent instead of porta potties. And we've got some big events going on out there this summer. So make sure you stop by our table when Amy's done with her wonderful presentation and get some information about upcoming events. And we're super excited to partner with the library, and this has been a really great series. I hope we do it again next winter.
Well, we already came up with a couple of topics for next year, so I think that it's looking pretty good, right? So, like I said, we're really ecstatic to be able to partner with local organizations to do things like this. We wanted to make sure that we celebrated the outdoors throughout the winter, which arguably was not the coldest winter this year. But it was a lot of fun planning this with Tracy, and yes, we will definitely do it again next year. So look out for Stories from the River 2.0, but don't leave yet. We have to do this one first. Come on. So in this presentation, Listening to the Wild, Amy shares some of her most intriguing field experiences from television production while exploring the art and importance of deep listening in our daily lives. We'll hear surprising animal vocalizations, reflect on why true quiet is becoming increasingly rare, and talk about how and where we can still find it. We are going to be listening to quite a few things today, so I do want to just mention this humming that you're hearing right now is not a part of today's presentation, so please just ignore that as much as you can, because that's annoying. But we are here to listen to Amy. Amy has a whole wild background filled with National Geographic sounds and authoring so many different books as well. Amy has talked here at the library a couple times, and one time you brought me a bunch of penstemon, which it regrettably died. But we are really excited to bring Amy back to the library, and again, in conjunction with the Sun River Watershed Group. So without further ado, Amy.
How this goes, not too much reverb or anything. As a former sound recordist, it's always, you want to dial it in just so. But yes, when I was asked to be part of this series, I thought it was just a phenomenal opportunity to talk about one of my passions, which is sound. For those of you who've known me for a bit, I'm legally blind without my contacts, so I definitely prefer to listen to things, and so that's always fit well. So when we're out on the trails and everything, my husband Grant back there, he sees a bird, and he can identify, the tiny little marks by the eyes and everything, and I'm like, oh, let me just hear it, because I can't see the same that he does. So that's one of the biggest reasons that I appreciate sound and want to bring this awareness to everybody else. So when we're hiking, we of course are in one of the most beautiful areas in the entire world, and we are visual creatures. So when we come back from a hike, what do we say? Do we say, what we heard? No, it's what we saw, the beautiful scenery we saw, the wildlife we saw. But my goal tonight is to kind of shift that focus to the soundscape instead of just the landscape. And the other point that I also want to bring up is so many times we hear, I mean, as we're walking down the trail, we hear, but are we really listening? And once we make that shift, it really brings us to a completely different level. So as part of our first project, or what we're gonna do tonight, we're gonna play a little Name That Tune. And hopefully this will work. Oh. That one. Here we go. So that one is faint, so that one's rough grouse. And of course, you know, they have their favorite logs and they're beating the air as fast as they possibly can and makes that sound. It's one of those sounds though, it's interesting because you feel it almost in your chest instead of just hearing it. And it will also, what's amazing, it'll carry a half a mile. So that tiny bird beating his wings, trying to bring in the chicks on the log, it carries a half a mile. So next one, let's see, so go up and down.
And I can just go down.
Oh. Anybody know what that is? Okay, Bruce?
Snipe.
That's it. The winnowing of the snipe. And I asked, you know, is it aliens? I had friends years and years ago move, I forget where they were from. They were from out of state, moved to Ulm, and she calls me in a panic one night. And she's like, we're out, it's dusk, you know, we're hearing this, and the boys think it's aliens, and it's like, yeah, where they were. I'm like, oh no, it's a snipe. Same thing, it's fascinating. It's those outside tail feathers, you know, they're going up and then diving, and it creates that whirring noise, that vibration creates that whirring noise. But it's one of those really, really unique sounds. Okay, let's see. Yep, bison. So during the rut in particular, those big boys, you know, they're sounding tough. They are showing off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like 70-year-old lady just was killed in Custer State Park in South Dakota, I read.
Oh,
It's
really?
like, so even in South Dakota, they mean business.
Was she trying
But yeah, the vocalizations of the bison during the rut, you know, the calves in the spring, and then, you know, in July, I mean, that's that first warning. And when you start listening to all the vocalizations from the animals, they really communicate. Of course, they're communicating through body language, but wildlife has a far deeper bench, I would say, of vocalizations than we think a lot of times. And bison are definitely one. We don't often, you know, they look so docile, we don't often think of that deep guttural growl, but they do, especially when they get riled.
Don't pet the fluffy cows.
Don't pet the fluffy cow. Don't ride them either. So this one, you might guess ahead. So this is November. So it's the bighorn sheep rams.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Each other.
when I was working for National Geographic, if you couldn't get the sound, one way to replicate it was to take the curling weights and smash each other, but preferred to get the wild sound. But yeah, I mean, of course, you know, how many have seen them go at each other? And they're just absolute full force. It'd be interesting to measure the power in which they're hitting each other. But the males, of course, are very, very focused, and yeah, and you can hear it reverberate, especially up Sun Canyon's a good place to go find them too. And you could just hear it reverberate throughout the entire area.
I didn't see, but yeah, people say,
Okay, not a teenager at a buffet, but there's a lot going on in this one. Now, this one was a grizzly bear eating bison. And this was in Yellowstone. And Yellowstone provided this. I'm dying to know how they got close enough to set up the mics. You know, it's like, because working with sound, I mean, it's really incredible with some of the recorders and the mics that you have, and to be able, you know, to direct that sound, to be able to pick it up. But it was pretty good level, that they had to be pretty darn close, because even the slightest wind, breeze is just a nightmare, even if you have all the equipment on it. So that was one that was like, that was pretty impressive, because in this next clip I'm gonna show you is actually a clip from one of the first programs I worked on with Geographic. It was called Bear Attacks, and this was in the 90s that we did this. And it was, this movie came out of this program before Bear Spray. And we worked with Stephen Herrero out of Calgary, who wrote Bear Attacks, Their Causes and Avoidance. Because in Glacier at that time, I mean, during the 90s, pretty much summer began with the first mauling. It was, you know, a friend of mine who was a biologist, we'd like bet a half gallon of ice cream on when somebody would get nailed type thing. So it's the biologist's dark sense of humor. But, you know, this program shows this bear in Cut Bank over, and it had killed a yearling moose. But the sound on that too, which I didn't take this sound, they created it.
Bears roam a hostile world. Mostly solitary animals, they spend their lives in a constant search for food.
Those two medicine
In the final weeks before hibernation, a carcass can mean the difference between life and death. And a bear may kill to keep it.
That's a big bear for Glacier, but the sound on that, I always cringe because it always seemed too much. But then, of course, when you go to that Yellowstone with the bison, the bear feeding on the bison, it's like, the sound is accurate, you know, maybe the volume was up a little bit much, but capturing sound like this, like any of it, is always tricky. And when I was filming, we were using 16mm film, and then I had a separate recorder, and my job was just to capture that ambient sound, to be able to match up and to use that background, the correct birds, the correct trees, because leaves sound different. Aspen leaves sound different than cottonwood leaves, or conifers, you know, so everything sounds different. And depending on the editor and how accurate they wanted to be, they needed this different sound available to them. So that was definitely part of my job, is to get as close as possible. Because like I said, even though the mics are good, they're not that good, and there's a lot that can interfere. Wanted to share some of the stories, and speaking of interference, one of my goals when we were working on a program called Giants of Jasper, and spent about a year up in Jasper off and on, was capturing the ankles clicking of the caribou. Because just the way the tendon is, and they believe it's basically a way to keep the herd together, to be able to keep track of each other, that they can hear those tendons and they can hear that noise, so even in horrible, horrible conditions, everybody knows where everybody is. But it's a very unique sound. And there were different situations along the road where the caribou would be coming in, and I'd jump out, and then you'd have vehicle traffic. So this one, though, had ridden horses up into the Tonquin Valley and stayed at cabins up there, and this was September, because I remember riding up was the day that Princess Diana was killed. So I had to take the news up to the folks working there. But beautiful, beautiful valley. Hopped in a rowboat, because saw two bull caribou on the other side of the lake, and hopped in the rowboat and rowing, and you know, it was really, really nice, no wind, it was good for sound. And I was crawling, belly crawling up, kept testing, it was like getting close enough, and then just as felt I was close enough and clicked the recorder on, somebody back at camp started chainsaw. There's no cell phones, no walkie-talkies, and it's just like, oh, and waited a while, but then with the binocs realized, no, they're working on a dock. So turned around in there, did not get it that time. But it's just one of those things that you think you're in the perfect place, the perfect location, and then something arbitrary just opens up. Another experience that I really, really enjoyed, I think this was either up in Banff and Jasper, but same thing, it's like so many times with my work on these programs, as assistant camera first, so you had to make sure the cameraman, everything was set up. But in those lull times, that's when I would step away, step into the woods, and sit and just record everything around us. And I was sitting along these trails within the woods and just quiet, focusing on the birds. And all of a sudden, this coyote just comes walking up, and he has no idea I'm there. And he just walks right past me and keeps going. And it was just like, oh, you know, just feet away. I could have almost touched him. But it's those experiences when you're quiet. So when you are, you know, basically part of the landscape, that you really open up and you can see and hear all these other things going on. And that's the other thing too, when I was doing sound recording, I'm not a good one for meditation. I should be, I mean, everybody should be, it's a good thing, because the monkey mind and everything is going and I can't sit still and yeah, it's just an issue. But when I was recording sound, you have to slow down your breathing because it's amazing how loud people read sometimes. And so you have to slow that breathing down so you're not making noise and holding the mic, you know, if it was a handheld one, which wasn't the ideal, just not move and to absolutely be silent and slow everything down and close the eyes because it almost seemed that having the eyes open was even noisy too. So you had to close your eyes and then just start listening and it just absolutely opens up a different world. Another one that was a lot of fun, I had to grab this off the stock footage, but it was actually during the winter. And it was up in Jasper again, and it was an elk that I think was hit by a train. And it was off the side and everything, and different animals were coming in on it. And the pine martens were coming in, and there were two of them. And we'd come in, and I crawled up within that thing within 6 feet of that frozen carcass and had my parabolic mic and just absolutely still and, you know, felt like I'm blending into the woods and everything. But then all of a sudden, the little guy saw me. I got chewed out so bad in pine marten. Just did not like me within that space and just reamed me one. But, you know, fun to watch. Chickadees were coming in on the carcass. I mean, it was really interesting to see all the different small wildlife. It was before anything big found it. But yeah, pine martens are a fun one because very, very vocal, very fast, and lots of personality. Oops. And then also the bighorn sheep too. That was one of my favorite ones. Well, it wasn't my favorite at the time because it was 30 below and it was cold and yeah, it was miserable out, but it was at the height of the bighorn sheep rut up in Jasper. And the hardest part about it, thankfully didn't have to climb very much to get them because they would come down close to the road and there was this little rise, that wasn't a very hard hike. But it was keeping everything warm because electronics do not like cold. And so it was keeping everything inside the parka and thank goodness for hand warmers just to keep gear going. And once again, I found that same situation where you just sit because the rams were chasing the females all over and they were smacking heads and I mean this massive ram just darn near ran over the top of me because I'm just sitting there quiet and I'm like a rock and so they're ready to go over me. They don't care who else is there. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Not only to get the budding once in a while, but also the vocalizations between the rams and the ewes as well too. And even things like the hooves on the rocks. You know, all these things we needed for these programs. And it was a lot of fun to get. But now that I'm not in that business anymore, I still love it though. And the one thing I found, you can invest thousands, and it's always a lot of fun to go out. You know, they call it acoustic ecology now. To be able to capture these wild sounds in places because they're being lost. because we have so much noise pollution, I guess, for lack of a better word. Because even in Glacier, Yellowstone, those areas, you're out in the backcountry in the wilderness, and you might have a plane come over or a jet way up high, but you can still hear it. So it's these things that we don't often think about until we're paying attention to these things. So these days, I still really enjoy going out, even though I'm not on task. I don't have an assignment to do, but it's still really fun to be able to hike and to be able to sit and to listen a bit, or even locally, to be able to listen and start picking out the different birds and picking out the human sounds too. It's really kind of amazing how much we tune out. But when you stop and listen, you're hearing the different types of traffic, whether it's the interstate or the side roads or on gravel. And it's good to notice all of that too. And there are definite benefits. Looking at, different ways that wild sound is good for us, improves the mood, lowers the heart rate, reduces anxiety, cortisol levels, better sleep. I mean, there's some times where you do just kind of relax so much, it feels like you can doze off, and faster stress recovery. And there are definite studies that are backing all of this. And another is forest bathing. How many have heard of that? So and it's great. I was just talking with a friend of mine the other day. Her name is Ellen Horowitz. One of my favorite people. She's over on the west side. And she's actually leading forest bathing courses, workshops, and guides people and helps people focus. And, it's been highly popular, highly beneficial to people, bringing that blood pressure down, the heart rate down. And yeah, everybody just needs to kind of chill out. It's all good for us. Some of the resources that I found, that if you want to listen, it's kind of fun just to go through the sound library where I pulled some of these to be able to listen to some of the different animals, because it's surprising, and especially the different birds. Cornell Lab, of course, the library is fabulous. National parks have great sound libraries or galleries. Oh, and that acoustic atlas too. They have a slew. American Prairie, I'm impressed with how they're putting things together. And the Earth FM actually has ringtones that you can download. And I believe they were all free. So that's kind of cool. And then the Merlin app, which is really, really valuable when we're out birding. And you're hearing all these birds going on. And I know, a lot of times you'll recognize the common ones, but it's really cool to be able to figure out what else is there. So you can add that to your list too. Like I said, I can't see them, but I'm happy to be able to hear them. So my takeaway message for everyone is now go listen. Don't just hear, sit and listen. And I'm really be curious to hear people, what your experience is. And I'm on Facebook and everything. But when you're out, if you just take 5 minutes and just sit and listen and what you hear, and even kind of segue, I got to talk in Bozeman on Saturday about keeping journals. It might be good even to write it down, what you hear that time, and even returning to that place, same spot over and over again, and jotting down what you hear. So thank you very much. And I did include, I know the bear situation that we have on the west side is very disturbing. When I was pulling clips from that bear attacks program, I did include another clip of a couple, as Patricia Van Tegum and Trevor Jans. They were mauled in the 80s up in Waterton. And I did include their story, if you're interested. It's about 5 minutes. This was before bear spray, very, very careful people, but
Bear attacks are
interesting
often
scenario.
unpredictable, and even the wary can be caught off guard. Patricia and Trevor Jans traveled cautiously in bear country. Still, a weekend backpacking trip would become the most horrifying event of their lives.
As I say, this was at 2 medicine, we were all freezing to death. It's like all these bits and pieces I could put together.
That was, I think, about, 20 or 30 feet behind Trevor. and I saw the bear come in a blur. I recognized from the shape that it was a grizzly bear because of the hump, and it just knocked him down, and it was just like that. I mean, it was so fast.
Very clear impression of the power and the violence of the attack, just being thrown around like nothing. I thought, oh, this is it. So this is how I'm going to die. I was quite surprised that I was going to die a violent death.
And young.
And young, yeah. But it was pretty clear that I was going to die. And I was very surprised when she stopped.
During Trevor's attack, Trish scrambled for safety in a tree. Safety she wouldn't find.
And the minute I stopped climbing, I looked down just to locate where things are, and the bear was looking straight at me. She came at the tree as fast as she had come at Trevor, just like that again. She was flying at the tree and came up the tree like a pole climber. She knocked all the branches off as she came up, and I figure I was 16, 20 feet up. I don't know how high really, but on her own momentum, she got high enough to reach and swat and got me on the leg and knocked me out. She mauled me very differently from how she attacked Trevor, in that I didn't get the violent throwing around at all. She just kind of perched on top of me and gnawed. It was like a dog with a bone, except it was my face and my scalp. I kept trying to put my face down, but I didn't even know where down was because I was afraid to look and see what I would see because her face was right there on mine. And I did open this eye, and her nose was right there, and it made me think of a dog's nose, which is quite sensitive, and I know people hit it when they're training dogs, so I just tweaked it. Not to make her mad, not to hurt her, just to change the subject a little bit. And it worked. She backed right off. She backed off about 10 feet away from me, I guess, and paced there for what felt like several minutes, just woofing and shaking her head and staring right at me. So I just held completely still then to make her think she had won, if you want, and didn't move at all. And one time when I looked, she was gone, and then after that I couldn't open either eye, and I just mostly waited and tried to call Trevor once, but my mouth wouldn't work. At that stage, I didn't know if Trevor was alive or dead anyway. I only knew I was alive because I could feel myself breathing. Otherwise, I wasn't too sure.
It turned out that it was probably me standing up that the bear had left Patricia. And as I stood up, the bear hit me again and mauled me again. Probably longer and with more damage the second time. To my face. And because I knew what was going on and everything had registered, I guess I was more aware the second time. And again, the force of the bear. Basically just trying to protect your head with your arms up around your head and being chewed on, and really powerful sensations, the smell of the bear's mouth, the scraping of her teeth on my skull, the cracking of my bones. I could hear that quite clearly. And then the bear stopped. And I was just left face down, and I didn't hear anything at all after that.
So they did the Crypt Lake hike up in Waterton. It was in October, and when they were going in, she thought she smelled something, but didn't see anything. Went in, camped, everything was fine, and it was on their way out that the bear got them. And like I said, pre-bear spray, obviously, and then other campers came down and were able to get them to the lake and get them back to safety. But Patricia wrote a book called The Bears Embrace and it's Patricia Van Tighem, because they ended up splitting, and the library does carry it. But it's a really good story. She had lots of surgeries, and she took her own life. Just, it was too much, but it was one of those, very valuable stories that we worked on for bear attacks. The other topics that we chose were bicycles, of course, with bears, or, what we called Meals on Wheels. But once again, biologists you hang out with. But, the bear spray has been such a game changer, and I've heard conflicting reports on what happened over in the west, or the Mount Brown Trail situation over on the west side, that he did have bear spray. I've heard it was deployed, I heard it wasn't, but, who knows what happened. But before hiking season is underway, I have to give my own plug for bear spray. I've had to spray mountain lion, I've been charged by grizzlies, but never had to spray one. Been chased by moose more than anything else. But yeah, bear spray is a good thing to have, and know how to use it, and know which way the wind's blowing, and it's much better. It's good insurance policy, let's just say that. Because 99% of the time, bears are gonna be just fine, and they're gonna go the other way. But in that rare chance, and it does happen insanely fast, and a situation like this with the carcass situation, I've dealt with plenty of sows and cubs, and it's always been cool, it's been okay, but it's that carcass situation that a lot of times, depending on the personality of the bear, they're not backing down, and they're not giving up that space, where other times, other bears will. So, carry bear spray, keep your ears open, and have a wonderful summer.
Does anybody have questions for Amy? We got time. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so Amy, you said that you're not doing that anymore, so what are you doing now? You and I have known each other for a while and stuff, so what's your focus now?
Now writing for magazines. Used to write for the Tribune way back when. Was a freelancer for the Tribune. But now writing for regional and national magazines, and then writing books. Working on my 4th book called Mapping Montana, where we are taking about 40 historical maps and telling the backstory. So I am like geeking out big time on Montana history right now, and I'm peppering people all over the state if they will review chapters for me. So it's been a lot of fun digging through maps and old photos and things like that, and research, and a little cross-eyed at times, but it's a lot of fun. And it's due August 1st and should be out in 2027. So, yeah. So it's gonna cut down my hiking a bit, which is bumming me out, but it'll be okay. I might be doing a guidebook for Glacier next year, working on that right now, which would be fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Any other? Good, well, thanks so much, everybody, for coming out. It's good to see familiar faces I haven't seen for a while. This is always fun, and we can always talk gardening too. Who lost anything with the frost? Oh.
Just a little fuchsia that I knew I probably should have covered. It's okay.
It was, yeah. It was not good. It's even several weeks ago, I'm like, I think we're gonna be okay. And our eldest son is going into meteorology. So I'm always asking Sam, I'm like, okay, how's it looking? His pat answer is, you can't tell more than 3 days out. Okay, that's first year down. Hopefully second year he'll be able to give me a little bit more here. Because yeah, it's like, come on. But he's specializing, or he wants to specialize more in fire. And that fire weather, that's definitely an issue. But yeah, mama needs to know gardening advice.
Amy, I could use some advice.
Yeah.
I have a dog that snores.
Oh.
And it's the cutest little snore ever. And it does not matter how sound asleep he is. As soon as I get my camera out and I get close and I try and record him, he stops.
Of course, that sounds like typical sound recorder stuff.
I don't know if I'm not sneaking up on him right or
I'm doing it
whatever, but I tell you.
It's interesting.
Start in the other room and then walk in.
Just
maybe
kind of slowly
zoom
sneak
in
in.
with your video instead of taking the video of the camera up to the dog. Just zoom in.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That might work.
And, or start it in the other room and, yeah, if you can be near him and he won't stop normally, just start it elsewhere. Yeah, it's like, yeah,
That's funny.
yes.
Sound recording of wild animals is a pretty obscure career. How did you get into it?
It was when I was working as assistant camera and doing different programs for Geographic and BBC. It was, I think the first one I worked on for sound was actually Urban Elk. So they needed somebody to record the sound of the bulls bashing and, the bugling and everything else. So they're like, okay, here's the equipment. There you go, learn it. So that's how it was. And so yeah, I was sneaking on the golf courses of Banff too, as the elk were absolutely trashing the greens and the poor maintenance guys are just throwing shovels at them. Things like that. They did wallows out there. Urban Elk was a fun one. Started with bear attack and then had Urban Elk kind of in between. And that was just 2 weeks of insane filming because it was during the rut. And of course, at that time, the elk in Banff, they're chilling all summer long and they're fine. And then as soon as that testosterone kicks in, the bulls went nuts. And there was one up at Turtle Mountain Campground and the door in the ladies' bathroom squeaked. And so, I'm trying to record that too because, set up waiting for the kill shot. Because anytime a woman would come in or out, this one bull would go at him. And this little old lady, this little babushka, she comes out and he's doing this. And I blew it and I yelled and hollered and, because I'm like, I'm gonna watch, the crew wasn't happy with me, but, and then he came kind of at her again and I yelled. And then he came after me. But I was a lot more nimble to be running around the trailers, and she never had a clue. So, never had a clue. But there was another gal who went in, and she just waited, and finally when he left, I went and got her and said, okay, you're clear. But yeah, that was a wild 2 weeks, and they cut his antlers off. They captured him, and he was humbled. But yeah, so Urban Elk was a fun one to do, and then Giants of Jasper, and then did a couple of mountain lion films too. And, didn't do as much sound recording with the lions just because On the Move so much was up in Waterton for that, for the first one in particular, because there was a female and 3 subadults, it was hard to tell them apart. And it took 6 months to figure out their pattern. Because we didn't want to use dogs. I had done that before with Jim Williams when he was over here, a biologist over here. We went out with him near Holter Lake and ran some cats up the tree, which was a ton, and filmed Jim doing it and everything, which was a ton of fun. But didn't want to do that for this family, so it took us 6 months to figure out the pattern. But then when you did, it worked pretty well. But I didn't have time for sound recording on that. But it was kind of a game of cat and mouse with the wardens though. It was, we had kind of this working relationship with them, except if there was a carcass stashed underneath somebody's cabin. Then it's like, you don't want to tell the wardens because they're gonna take that away and miss your chance with the cats. And like Russian night vision gear and all this other crazy stuff to be able to film them. So that was fun. But had to spray the cat. There was one of the subadults up. There's a trail that goes kind of behind the cabins up in Waterton. Picture the big cow parsnip and everything. And he or she was up there and like 15 feet away from the cameraman and was starting to gather those hind legs just like the house cat. And just gave a little quick shot of bear spray and that one tootled off. But another one up that same time period, it was one of the other subadults underneath a conifer in somebody's yard. And these 2 women were right in front, standing in the driveway, talking. The cat's maybe 30 feet behind them. They had no idea. And they're talking, and I remember one woman had keys in her hand, and she's talking. I'm like, how is this cat resisting? And, and then they split up, and they absolutely had no idea that cat was there. So it shows just, yeah, how many times have we walked past? And they're ones you don't hear, they're so quiet. But, yeah, and then too, that was one I should have found. How many have heard the chirpings from mountain lions? That kind of yeah, it's the first time I ever heard that was at No Name Lake up in the park. We were hiking up, we camped there the first night, because we were hiking up to Rising Wolf to try to film the grizzlies getting the cutworm moths underneath the boulders and everything. So we camped there and heard them coming through, and it's like, oh, and I was just young, and just was shocked that such a large animal made such a delicate, a bird-like sound, but it's, typically the females and young vocalizing back and forth to each other. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, when you listen, you really, really hear some cool stuff. Especially at night when you're sitting in your tent and you're like, what is that? Or one of those, woke up in the middle of the night, it was up by the ice fields between Banff and Jasper, and had been filming this grizzly, just hanging with him all day long, and in the campground there, the tent, then something hits the tent in the middle of the night, and there's something where you don't know whether to grab for your glasses or the bear spray. But it was a deer, thankfully it was a deer. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. But like I said, it's that listening, that deep listening, that really brings us to a different level. So I highly recommend it. Yes, Marcia?
Western toads, have you heard those? They sound like little birds.
Yeah, chirps.
Yeah.
The amphibians are just so vocal. Yeah, the western toads, and like if you pick them up and you squeeze them too much too.
Capers in the spring, they're so loud and they're only about that big.
Tiny. I know. It's like you wonder about the physics of that, how they project that. But yeah, it's very, very cool. And the insects too. I mean, the cicadas. I've been in Billings. Around here, not so much, but Billings, I was just shocked with that. But I could see where that could be unnerving. I remember being in Florida when I was 12, staying with my grandparents, and I was the only child for the week. And Granny Mary let me use her bike, and they have those palmetto bugs and everything down there. And I remember going down the road, and it's just thick with trees, and as I got deeper, it got louder, and I'm like, nope! I don't know what's in there. But big bears, big bugs.